Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. And we're going to talk about the Accuquilt again today. And this is session number 3 of it. But before we talk about that, oh, and by the way, it is episode 141 in case you're counting. And by the way, my numbers might be out a little bit because there's been some times when I've well, never mind. It doesn't really matter. The numbers really don't matter. And it is May the 10th. No, it's not. It is May the 17th, which means that probably I didn't change the title on my notes. So that is probably why this is not So Chatty 141. It's probably Chatty 142. And like I said, numbers don't matter. Who cares? Okay, let's see what I've been working on. If I can find the bloody button. There we go. Okay. As you know, this is the sew along that Stephanie and I have been putting up each week for the Churchill block from the book Tabletastic 2 by Doug Lico. And there are many of you that are working along with us on this, but I am changing mine into a quilt, and essentially I have the blocks done now. Now it's getting the blocks together, and you can see a secondary pattern is emerging as well with this. I'm not putting sashing in this because I want those secondary patterns, but I will border it as well. Those are decisions I have yet to make, but it's coming along nicely, and that's good because I'm getting really tired of making these blocks over and over again. So that's one thing. Another thing, well, we'll come to that in a minute. Yeah. Okay. So nothing else to show you. Walter's been working, and what have you been doing in the yard?
I've been planting grass seed.
And how's your grass ball?
What?
The one you said that the way you were doing starting up.
Oh yeah. So I saw on the internet on YouTube, on the site, people people were beginning to pre-germinate their grass, meaning like grass takes a while when you're in seeds to start to grow, right? So it's always a nuisance, but you put some soil down, some grass seeds in. You water them for days and days and days and days, and finally you get to see some grass grow, right? In the meantime, your lawn is growing still, and
You're talking about a lawn?
yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about weed. No.
So anyway, your lawn's still growing, and it's a nuisance because it gets longer, and your grass seed hasn't even started to sprout. So anyway, I started looking around online, and they were talking about this pre-germination process to pre-germinate your grass seed so that when you put it in your lawn, it starts to grow quicker. So I tried that, and so far it seems to be working. I've only had the grass seed down 3 days, and it's beginning to show signs of growing. So,
okay, so we're getting more grass, but the whole point of you putting down grass seed mat is try to choke out the weeds, right?
well, I had this one weed growing in the middle of our lawn, and it seemed to be overtaking the lawn. So I decided to try and get it out. I read some information about it, and it's sort of a ground cover. Actually, it probably came in on a potted plant that we had last year or whatever, and it decided to jump into the grass. So
Yeah, sneaky little things.
yeah.
But I did read somewhere that if you have a really, really thick lawn of grass, it chokes out dandelions and things like that, which is important in our neighborhood because, first of all, here in Ontario, we're not allowed to use any weed killers except organic ones. Well, you know how good those are. They kill nothing. And the neighbors to the south of us are really conscientious about their lawn. And
They're the adjoining lawn, actually.
yeah, they're the adjoining lawn to ours, and so they don't have any dandelions and stuff because they dig them up. But the ones to the other side of us, well, their lawn is green, but it's not because of grass. It's
No,
weeds.
it's all weeds.
All weeds.
And it's funny because the people that lived there before that lived there for most.
Well, since we moved into the house,
Yeah, they moved in at the same time, and they lived there for about 16 or 17 years. Actually, 20 years, I
probably
think.
longer than that. Yeah, 20 years.
And they had a really nice lawn. Actually,
Yeah,
it
they
was
kept
always
it.
nicer than mine. But and it was really kept up nice and that. And since the new neighbors have moved in, they're nice people, and they do
Yeah, they just
some
don't do
yard
lawn.
work, but they just don't do lawn.
You know, I would suggest they pave it because that's my idea of a perfect lawn, as I tell
Yeah.
everybody all the time. But but whatever. So Walter's doing this, and he's gotten plants to start the container gardening on the deck and everything. Got those yesterday, and I'll be talking more about that and showing you pictures on the blog next week as well. So 'tis the season for all that kind of stuff. So that's what Walter's been busy at. So he hasn't had time to finish my latest shirt.
I will get going on it. Maybe you do. Maybe I'll try and do it on the weekend.
Maybe. Whatever. Well, you have an in-person soda day in a week from Saturday.
For sure I'll have to finish that. I wouldn't mind going on a different shirt by that point.
Well, you gotta get this one done first.
Yeah,
whatever. So speaking of which, not this Saturday, which is tomorrow. We're recording this on May the 17th. It is May the 17th. Yeah, 2024. So tomorrow's May the 18th. I did mention at one point back a week or two ago that I was thinking of having a pop-up soda day on the 18th. Changed my mind. This is a long weekend here for us in Canada. So I'm going to have it next weekend. Now, before you send me comments, it's the long weekend, it's the Memorial weekend in the States. I'm quite aware of that, and I don't care. Just putting it out there, okay? It's not my holiday. So
in Canada, our Canadian viewers, it's a long weekend this weekend. The American viewers, it's a long weekend next weekend. So who do you please?
Yeah, well, Canadians first, always. Okay, I am Canadian. I have to be loyal to my people. Not that it really makes a lot of difference, anyways. I don't think. But the pop-up soda day will be next Saturday, which is May the 25th. Starting at 8 a.m., running until about 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Come and go as you please, and yada, 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 yada. Most of you know how this all works. I'll be sending out a direct message to your email, those of you on the mailing list. The rest of you, the link will be in the show notes for everything I put up next week. So that's coming up. And what are we working on? Anything you want. Up to you. Okay, got to keep me company that day because Walter's trailing off to his in-person thing.
Actually, the reason it's going to be on that day is because I'm going to an in-person soda day,
and I get lonely. I could go to his in-person soda day, and I have a couple of times. I don't like those people. They have a different attitude towards sewing than we quilters. So no, it's not really true. They're nice enough people.
They're nice enough. Actually, I find that it can be quite distracting when you go down there because it's
there's people coming and going
and stuff like that. And there are people coming and going,
and I don't like the environment for taking my stuff in there. It's not meant for a sewing place. It's meant as it's a nightclub.
Yeah, they have bouncy tables and stuff.
And there's sticky things on the floor. But never mind.
There is.
Things hanging from the ceiling. I don't know.
5-second rule doesn't work there.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to lug all my stuff either, so I'd rather do it here. I'd rather be with my peeps, all of you, with this for this soda day. So that's going to be next Saturday, okay, May the 25th. All right. So also during the week we have Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. As you know, I say it all the time. It's in the show notes. Check it out. We are also, Stephanie and I have been posting some videos, one every week for the Churchill block, which you just saw. We have been doing those on a weekly basis, and people seem to be following along, and we've had some nice comments about it. People seem to be enjoying it. There are some tricks to that block, as Stephanie and I both have discovered, but I call it in certain cases, fudge it. It's the fudgy block. Stephanie's a little bit less fudgy than me. She's a little bit more exacting. But anyways, between the two of us, if you're running into a problem, we've addressed the issue, and I think everything should be fine and dandy. With that, okay, what else? Oh, excuse me. Speaking of Stephanie, tonight, May 17th, Friday night, at 7 p.m., Stephanie is having a special live event. She has Shannon of Slay Arts and myself on there, and she's going to announce something I have been sworn within an inch of my life I can tell you nothing about it. And it's been killing me. I mean, if you don't want a secret spread around, you should never tell me, because I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm one of those kind of people. I shouldn't tell you this, but I have this secret, and here it is, but don't you tell anybody with it. course, then I tell another person and another person and another person. So, and Stephanie knows that about me, and so she made me swear. My lips are sealed.
He's gonna cut off his hands.
I don't know, or my head, or cut out my tongue, or something. Whatever, cut off something. But anyway, so tonight it's the big reveal, 7 p.m. Stephanie's channel, Stephanie Stitches, and there's already an upcoming thumbnail up there in YouTube for it. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. Excuse me, I'm all choked up about it. Okay, I think that's all the announcements for this week. So now we can get into the main event, which is talking about the different kinds of dies with the Accuquilt. And first ones that we want to talk about is, ouch, that hurt. Dropped something on it. They're heavy. This is a cube. This is what they call a cube. What's in this cube? Can you hold the cube, please?
This happens to be a 4-inch cube.
This is a 4-inch. They do come in other sizes. We'll talk about that in a minute.
And each of the cubes, the different sizes, have the same dies in it, don't they?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, don't they?
Well, yeah, they'll do the same thing. Yeah, they do. I see what you mean. And there's add-ons, but we're jumping ahead.
Different sizes, right?
But we're jumping ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, this is the 4-inch cube, and I'll just show you. Hang on to it. They're heavy. And it's a great storage system for these as well. So this all opens up, and you have, I can get it all in the shot. You have 4 cubes in this set, or 4 dies in the set. You'll notice I have saran wrap still on some of them because I haven't even used those ones yet. But they come with a little card showing you what you can make with that particular die. But then there's other extensions to this for making whole quilts or whatever. And they work in conjunction with each other. So the 4-inch cube basically is designed to make a 4-inch block. Well, no, sorry, not a 4-inch block. Any multiple of 4 kind of a thing, depending on how many pieces you put into it. These, and you can see here in the box, let me just put this back in, that there are 3 little boxes inside. Hold it up there. So, and it shows you on the side what it makes. So there's half square triangles, there's small squares, there's triangles, 4 triangles in a block, there's some rectangles, things like that. So you're getting a lot of different shapes when you buy one of these boxes. The little box beside it usually contains an instruction booklet. Let's just pull it out. It'll contain a cutting mat, okay, that fits for all of these particular dies, and it comes with a little booklet. And in this little booklet, this is a pattern booklet, it shows you what's in the box, all the different dies, and then it shows you, gives you some tips on cutting, and then it has patterns. So by having one of these cubes, you can make this one you're showing here. They have all the instructions. You can make these ones, and it goes on. And there's quite a few blocks, which you can make into quilts or table runners, whatever, from one box alone. Now, if you're just getting started in Accuquilt, this is probably the most economical way to go to get the most bang for your buck. It's to buy one of these cubes. That's right here. Plus, this is their storage system. This is a very substantial box that these are in. This is not flimsy little cardboard.
Yeah, it's heavy duty.
Yeah. And I can show you how mine are on my shelf. Now you can see these are the other ones. They go up as high as 12 inches, so that's a fairly large block that you're making. 10 inches, 8 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches, 10 inches. So those are all the basic fundamental blocks. But they do have add-on packages for angles as well, the companion set that goes with it. So my recommendation is, if you're going to get started, you can probably put that down now. You don't need to, because it's probably heavy. Just got to put it on the counter. I mean,
Well, it doesn't matter.
there's a, okay, whatever. So my recommendation is if you're going to invest in an Accuquilt system and you're not sure what you want yet as far as dies are concerned, buy the 8-inch block. That one will allow you to make a variety of different kinds of quilts and different kinds of blocks, and that's a nice size for a finished block as well. But if you go to the Accuquilt site, they will explain how the whole system works. Now, how much is one of these cubes? Well, let us just turn our...
They are very pricey.
They are quite pricey, and this will probably, you'll go, what? This is economical? In a sense. Okay, so here we go. Let me just blow this up. Okay, so here I told you there's the 4-inch. It's $249. 5-inch, $249. 10-inch is $309.
And that's the sale price.
Yeah.
The normal price for them are $368.90, and that's in American dollars.
Yeah, that's American dollars. So yes, they're very, very pricey. Specialty set. Oh, and that's by, what's her name? From Anita
Star.
Edna Sertar. I've never seen that. That must be new.
No, that must be new.
I wonder what that's got in it. Well, I digress. There's English paper piecing sets as well, if you're into that. There's the 4-inch, and you'll see these ones that they call companion sets, angles and corners. I think there's 2 companion sets for every box set. So they just give you, let's see, let's go into this one and see if we can get a clear picture of this. So you're getting weird shapes with these that give you a little bit more versatility. There you see on the end, like your triangles, your trapezoids, things like that come in these boxes. So yeah, that will give you a very complete, here you go, to show you. There's not as many in these boxes. That's why your price is a little less than the other ones, but they work in conjunction.
Yeah, well, the companion set's supposed to work in conjunction with the cube, so that if you've got like a 4-inch cube, then you need a 4-inch companion set.
Yeah. So yeah, it is pricey, but you're getting a lot of bang for your buck if you're buying just the mix and match, the basic ones. Let me go back here. Okay, so what did I show? Was it the 4-inch that we showed?
Yeah, we're just now.
Yeah, so this is the one we just showed. So you see here on the side of the box, they're showing you there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 dies. Well,
I've got a list of the dies.
And yeah, here they show you a picture of the dies. So there you go. So you see you've got, I think these are 2-inch squares. And I think these ones are a 1.5-inch or something like that. You have a half square triangle. You have a quarter square that you cut, the four triangles from that. Another set of half square triangles, but smaller ones. I mean, this is the 4-inch, okay? So your pieces are going to be smaller pieces. Same with this. This is another size in there. You have this trapezoid, and you have rectangles in there as well. So if you go to, like, why I recommend the 8-inch cube, I think the 8-inch cube is a really good place to start. This is the 4-inch. They're much smaller, especially when you're starting out with it. The other thing, too, is they often throw in a free pattern book. I have several of them that give you all kinds of things you can do, which that pattern book they're showing there is bigger than the little one that came with the cube. And there's all kinds of patterns in there as well. Plus, they have tons of patterns, free patterns, right on their website, too. So, yep, $249.99 American on sale. Pricey, but if you're going to go out...
And the smaller inch cube blocks or whatever are a little cheaper than the bigger ones.
If you
get into the bigger ones, they're a lot more.
Yeah, like if you go to, like, say, the 10 or the 12-inch, 10-inch, see, here you go. 4 inches, $249, $309 for the 10-inch.
Yeah.
there, and the 12-inch, which is as big as
I
they
think it's
come.
still 309 as
Is
well.
it?
Yeah.
Uh, can't find it. It's here somewhere, but yeah, well, they're
There's
12-inch block.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 309 as well for that. So yeah, pricey, but I think it's the biggest bang for your buck because all of these dies that are in this box, you can buy them separately, but it's going to cost you a lot more than what they're
Yeah.
selling
And
as
then
a set.
in the package here, if you notice on there, they show you on the side of the box all the different variations of what you can make
Oh,
from
you
that
mean
rug.
here the picture? Yeah, do they? Yeah, you mean? Okay, come on.
If you have a picture of the block there,
There.
they show you all the different
They show
rugs.
you all the different possibilities, and I
Yeah.
think in each case there's about 72. Is
Yeah.
about yeah. Well, here you go. Create over 72 block designs. So really, that's good value for the money. Because if you had to buy these things individually, it's going to end up costing you with that. And then here they show the patterns you can make. This happens to be the 9-inch. So you all can pattern. And these patterns are ones that you can download for free from their website. And you see they're all free on here. Now here's a little tip. Probably shouldn't tell you that. If you've been quilting for a while, you can download this for nothing because you don't have to have the cube to get it. You can download it for nothing and look at their instructions, and it's not that hard to convert them from the Accuquilt because they tell you what the measurements are. So, you know, you're looking for a free pattern book, 72 different blocks, this might be a way to go. But you didn't hear that from me. I don't get anything from Accuquilt anyway, so what do they care? Anyways, that is what they call cubes, the cube blocks. Now, there's another type, and these ones make us giggle. They're called blocks on board or bobs. Apparently, bob has a little different meaning for it depending on what culture you're in. But yeah, on the Accuquilt site, they mean blocks on board. What's a block on board? One block will make, it shows here, that has all the pieces you need on one die. So you want to make a, let's see, where's an interesting one? Oh, here you go, Mariner's Compass. Okay, I actually own this one. I haven't even taken the wrapper off it yet, and I've had it for about a year because I want to make a Mariner's Compass at some point. But if you see, all the pieces are on one die. They are longer dies. But it's all there. So you can cut all your pieces pretty quickly for it. And you'll notice they're all lettered. So they come with instructions on how to assemble the block. It's all there. And they aren't that bad a price when you buy these this way. And because you're probably going to be making more than one block, well, it's not a one-off with that. And you can get other ones. I have a bunch of these actually. And one of the things I want to do, and I haven't got around to it yet, is to do a sampler quilt that I've made with nothing but the blocks on board, the bobs, from Accuquilt. Because very doable with the number that I have. So those are fairly economical, as you can see in the price, depending on how elaborate they are. Now, especially ones like this that have curved pieces, people stay away from curves a lot because curves are not an easy thing to get accurately pieced together. Well, if you're doing something like the Mariner's Compass, or if you were going to do, say, a double wedding ring one, they're all blocks on board and they have curves. But what they do is they cut a little notch, a little, it's actually not a notch, it's more of a point, a little dart. Maybe that's what you call it. I don't know, in garment making. And all you have to do is match those up. The two pieces on top of each other, match up those little darts that are there, and it's easy to sew the circle, sew the curve. Yeah, it makes life really easy. So that's another advantage of the Accuquilt when it comes to very complicated piecing, like curves and stuff like that. They've really thought about it. It is great with half square triangles, I can tell you that, because they cut a little straight a little edge off where the dog ears would be. The dog ears are cut off, but they have it a line, an angled line. You match the two pieces up across that line. When you sew the two pieces together, open it up, it's your perfect size. You don't have to do any extra trimming at all. So, you know, if you got to make a lot of half square triangles, it's a very fast way to do it with Accuquilt. So they have thought of these things, which I think is fairly ingenious with it. So those are called blocks on board or bobs, and they come out with new ones all the time. You can see they have quite a few that make some very interesting and complex shapes. Quite a few here. And I have a few of them, and I do like them. I need to use them more. So many blocks, so many dies, so little time. But you see, yeah, look at it. Even one right here. This is for a log cabin. Now you're going to say, well, why would you need a die for a log cabin? Well, it allows you to cut all your strips exactly the lengths they need to be. See how they're laid out there? They're all numbered. So that's not a bad thing. That one I don't own yet. I must get it. And I don't know about you, but when I'm cutting out the pieces for a log cabin, I always get them mixed up. No matter how much I label them, I always get them mixed up too. So this is a way to keep yourself organized. But some really cool. And look, there's 3 pages of these. There's more. So they're constantly adding to their collection. There you go. You like circles, but you're afraid to, or curves, but you're afraid to sew them. Like I said, this will make it so much easier to make them accurate. So yeah, tons of them. And at Christmas time, they have ones for Christmas. I bought this one. I haven't done it yet. The Tree of Life. I haven't done it yet, but I bought that. But even like here, snowflakes. Just so many possibilities here. Here, speaking of Christmas, this one, poinsettia. And I have this one, and I have used it. I've actually used that to make a quilt of valor, Canadian quilt of valor. You like pineapples? The pineapple one, you can get rulers to cut your fabric this way. I have made one before using the ruler system. This is easier. So yeah, lots of things. Bear paw, I've got that one too. I have this one, the Cleopatra fan. I did do a table runner using that one. It's a really nice block. And there's your double wedding ring. So, you know, if you ever want to do a double wedding ring, but we're afraid because of the curves, Accuquilt may be the way to go with that. Because usually when you make a double wedding ring, you have to use templates. Because you see, like, look at, okay, stay there. See the C shape? That's usually you have to have a template to cut those kind of things. Okay, so that's blocks on board. But then, of course, a lot of people, when they think of Accuquilt, think more about applique. Because this allows you to cut out shapes. Here's something, holiday collection. So this is more, these dies are more for people who want to do applique on a quilt or a table runner, that kind of thing, or they want specific shapes to put on, say, a tote bag or something like that. And they have many, many of these, as you can see. Now, they are not particularly cheap. Ones that have a lot of multiple designs on them are expensive, $180 American. If you want ones with less designs, you can, they cost a little bit less. Now, some of these that look really cheap at $5.99 are not. We're going to talk about those in a minute. Those are not dies. They're something else, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But here's what I have the problem with on the applique dies, is that they're kind of, in my way of thinking, a one-off. Unless you are doing something like your blocks you were going to use that over and over and over again. Say, you know, you were going to do the bear or a house or whatever. You might, you know, it would be faster. Like, sort of, for example, this quilt they're showing here. You know, they've used the moose one a couple of times, used the bear one a couple of times, the tree one 3 times here. So, yeah, You'd have to really think about that, in my way of thinking. How many times am I going to use it? They're cute. They're fun. Right now, they're really pushing a new one they have out there. I just saw their video today that's based on the idea of paper dolls. And so it cuts out the shape of the old paper dolls that you dressed up. And then they have dies that cut out the clothes and the shapes. My way of thinking, I think I wouldn't be purchasing it. I'm not into that, but maybe some people would. And they had some ideas, everything from making wine tote bags and wine bags and tote bags to, putting it on a tea towel or something like that. Now, there are people who love to do that kind of thing with applique. So, if you're going to use it more than once, it might be worth it might be the money you want to spend on it. So we've talked about cubes, we've talked about blocks on board, bobs, and we've talked about applique. But here is something that I really like, and we have talked about this before when we were talking about machine embroidery. They have come out with embroidery files that if you own the block, for example, if you own this dragon or this sloth right here, you can buy for $5.99 the machine embroidery file, and they have instructions on how you cut out all the pieces using the die, and then using the embroidery file, it'll stitch them down for you. And they usually have 3 different stitches. They'll have a running stitch, they'll have a blanket stitch, and they'll have a satin stitch. And those all come with for $5.99 American, with whatever you buy here. I don't like their method. I did get the Sunbonnet Sue embroidery design because I had a thought that I might make a Sunbonnet Sue quilt, but I don't know. It's kind of old lady. But whatever. But I downloaded this one to try a little experiment, and we have a video about this. If you go back 6 months ago, whenever we were doing the machine embroidery course, I did show this. They want you to cut out the pieces first with the die. Then you will have a stitch line, a placement line, where it will show you where to lay that piece down on your fabric, and then it'll stitch it down. And you have to do it in a certain order. It's a bit cumbersome. There's an awful lot of extra steps. So this is another inside story that I'm sure Accuquilt will not be pleased with me telling you. I have downloaded a few of these without owning the die, and I do use that file to do an in the hoop applique the way I would do any in the hoop applique. I basically let it stitch down the placement line. I throw on my scrap of fabric on top of that piece. I then do the placement line again, because they're not exactly set up the way they are if you buy an actual in the hoop applique file from, like OESD or something like that. And then you trim around that, and then you let it go and do the blanket stitch or the satin stitch, whichever works out fine. And then I didn't even have to worry about how accurate my cutting was beforehand or have the die for it. So basically, it's a free design. Okay, just saying. You didn't hear it here. Okay, but that's, if those of you that are into machine applique, here's another source for some freebies for you. But if you do have the die, you can just get the embroidery file for it, and that will stitch it down to whatever you're doing it on. Now, there are some limitations to that, of course. Depends on how big, what the area is where you want to sew it down. If you've already got your quilt made or something, you decide to put applique on it, well, that might be a little too big to get in your hoop with your embroidery machine. So yeah, it's not ideal, but you can make it work if you think about it. So that's just a little tip. And as I said, many of these are free, but their going price for most of them is $5.99 US. That's not a lot of money. Even if you translate into Canadian, it's about $500,000. Yeah, dollars for that. So that essentially are the different types of dies and products you can get from Accuquilt. And then the fun comes when you start to mix and match everything. around to it. And that's when you go way down the rabbit hole because they're coming out with new ones all the time. And one of a good source of information is their YouTube channel. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they will highlight projects and new dies that they have as well, and they show you how to use them and give you some ideas of how to use them. So, yeah, lots of resources there as well. I mean, it's a big investment. You want to get the most out of it, right? Right. Okay. So, we had a few comments that we want to go over. This came from someone has their name Phyllis something. She wrote, I bought an Accuquilt because I'm one of those people that can't cut a straight line with a ruler and a rotary cutter. No matter how I try, I have the 8-inch cube plus the angles and corners. I also have the 12-inch cube and the angles to it. I have some of the bobs also. I don't buy the applique dies because I like the appliques that I cut from paper patterns better than the Accuquilt ones. For that, I use my brother's scan and cut and stitch them out on my Janome 500E. Yes, I'm lazy. Enjoying your Accuquilt video series. Thank you. So this just reinforces what I've already been saying about that. So it's not just me. Other people are using this to their advantage as well. And yes, if you have a brother scan and cut, and I have one, I have an old one, you can have your electronic cutting machine, which is what a brother scan and cut is, or Cricut, cut appliques out for you as well in your fabric. I have not had a lot of luck with that. I have a Cricut, I have a brother scan and cut. I have not had a lot of luck, but lots of people do. It's probably just me. But I've got an Accuquilt, so I don't care about that. And I don't do a lot of applique. Another person, Kathy, said, I would say that Accuquilt is definitely a luxury, i.e. expensive, but a lot of quilting gadgets are. Not unlike other hobbies these days. However, it is all about choices. If you are gifted something you can't continue with, sell it. I waffled on purchasing my system, but now I would be lost without it. I bought it because I'm all about easy. Laugh out loud. This is in reference to the comment that someone made, and we went over last week, who said that they were given as a gift an Accuquilt system, but they can't afford the dies. All the dies they want, they can't afford, and basically she was complaining
Well,
about
she was
that.
complaining, saying she has this machine and it's no good because she can't afford the
She
dies.
can't afford the dies. And so, so this person here is kind of responding to that, then sell it. Don't, if it costs,
Yeah, sell it, or if it was a gift it to somebody else
yeah,
that could use it. So.
with it. Yeah, it's not for everybody. And we've said multiple times, this stuff is not cheap. It is not. But then, like this particular subscriber said too, nothing is cheap in sewing or in hobbies. I mean, think about how
nothing is
much.
cheap, period, whether it's a hobby or anything. Like you buy anything, it's not cheap.
Somebody said to me, playing devil's advocate, that this person I know very well, on one of our sew days, she said, well, what about the people, low income people or the poor people? I'm sorry, then it's not for them. I mean, yeah, that's the cruel reality of the world, isn't it? In a perfect world, we'd all be able to afford anything that we want and wouldn't have to worry, but we can't. You know, we can't all go first class on an airplane if we fly somewhere. We can't all have the most expensive car on the road and trade it in every 6 months either. There are priorities in people's lives, and we all are limited by how much income we have. We know that with it. So, yeah, it might, for some people, the Accuquilt may seem elitist. If you can't afford it, or you don't want to spend that money, don't buy it. No one's twisting your arm. Okay? If you've got another method that works for you and you're happy with that, as we always said, you do you. If it's working for you, then go with it. Personally, I don't regret any of the money that Walter spent on my Accuquilt whatsoever. He got me a lot of cubes.
It is definitely expensive.
Yeah.
If you're happy just cutting stuff out yourself, then cut out the stuff yourself like you always do. I understand people, like I've always had a life where I was always very thrifty and conscious about where I spent my money and stuff like that. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more lax. But I always looked at things and thought, well, do I really need that? Because look at the price of it. Oh my God. Right. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you justify it. Some
You,
people just can't justify it.
well, here's the thing. Why do we need to justify? You've heard me say this before. I just can't justify buying that fabric right now. Is it adjusted? Why do you need to justify if it's just something you want? I do not make any excuses for the things that I buy.
Like, I mean, I used to work with a lady that made a fair bit of money and everything, and she would go out and buy the cheapest dishwasher she could put her hands on. But then when she went and she'd go, oh, geez, I bought a dishwasher and the cheapest one I could find was $450. Meanwhile, if you walked into the store with $200 Birkenstocks and a $200 pair of non-prescription sunglasses, and I said, look, lady, you spent $400 just on your more than 400 in just your outfit, and you can't buy something practical like a dishwasher and pay that kind of money for it.
It's priorities.
Yeah.
And what's one person's priority is not another person's priority. So we should not judge with that. If that makes them happy and that's what they want to buy, go for it. Go for it. It is not for me or anybody else to say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be putting your money here or whatever. It's their money. They can do with it what they want. Their life. Okay. And that's what I have found about Accuquilt. There is a segment of the quilting community who considered the Accuquilt people, it's a little posh. They're a little snotty. Well, I have an Accuquilt. But you could say the same thing about people who have Bernina sewing machines.
Yeah. Or people that say, do their quilting on a basic sewing machine that they bought for $2.99, and somebody that has an M7 or a more expensive sewing machine. It's the same thing, or a Bernina or something like that.
But if it works for you, it doesn't matter. If it works for you, it's in your budget range, you are happy with it, then
like the guy on YouTube that does the really fantastic quilts that he does, and he has like a fairly not so super expensive looking brother machine, and he does all his quilting on the machine too. Yeah. So, and he does beautiful stuff.
Yeah, well, he's talented for one thing, but he's made it work. He's made it work. Okay, with that. So, no judgment, whatever. It's a tool. Accuquilt is a tool, an expensive tool, but it's a tool. If it works for you, go for it. If it doesn't work for you, no shame. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have one. So anyways, and I think that's what that first one was saying. It is a bit of a luxury item. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Will you make better quilts if you have it? Not necessarily, because there's still the human factor involved with it.
Yeah, you still got to sew straight.
You still got to sew straight. So, speaking of comments, just before we round this up, something I'm noticing, and I just want to comment about this. I have been making YouTube videos for 12 years now. My back catalog has, I think it's over 2,000 videos in it. Okay, in that 12 years time. I'm pretty prolific. Okay, and I'm getting new people all the time, which is great. Thank you for that. But some of the new people are discovering me because of some of my older videos, especially ones about sewing when I first got into quilting and stuff like that.
Or with previous machines.
And they're writing me comments to be helpful about things like, well, did you try this? Yes, if you watch some more of the videos later on, I probably talk about trying that and what my success was with that. But look at the date. Look at the date on the video. If you're a new person to my channel, thank you for subscribing to me. I appreciate it. And by all means, check out the older videos as well, because there'll probably be some things there that you might find helpful or of interest. But if you write a comment on a video that was made in 2020, 2019 or something like that, I'm not going to respond. And here's why. I'm not being rude. But one, you're probably making a comment that I've already in another video later on after that one where I have solved the problem I may have been having at that point in time. So there's already a video about that. Okay. Two, I don't remember what's in the video. I don't remember what I put up last week. Okay. So, and I've said this before, if you're going to make a comment on a more recent video, be sure that you write it, give me the context of what you're writing about. Don't say, oh, yeah, I had a lot of problem with something like that, and this is how I solved it, but you didn't tell me what the problem was. I don't remember in the video. I'm sorry. I can't keep all that stuff straight in my head. And I'm lazy. I am not going to go back and review my video to find that particular point. Unless it was something that I felt, oh, this is major and other people need to know. Then I would spend the time with it. But on the really old videos, thank you for watching them. I hope you got something from them. But I probably don't even have that machine anymore. Like I have a whole series on the 15,000.
Yeah, the whole series on 15,000, and you don't have that anymore. So,
and I'm getting people trying to be helpful with when I talked about the problems I had with the 15,000, what I was doing with it, and all this kind of stuff. And people, well, have you tried this? Those videos are 5 years old. I don't even own the machine anymore. It's gone. So just what I'm saying is, look at the date of the video. Okay? And if it's something you think that I may not have addressed, just look through the rest of related videos to that. I may have already addressed it on there. Save yourself the time and effort of writing to me and getting a no response. Because I'm not going to respond. Sorry if that makes you upset with me, but I just can't. Okay, so anything else you want to add to today's session?
no.
Our next session, I forgot. See, I can't even remember what we're doing next week with it. So let me just check my notes to see what's in the next section. Oh, next week. Let's cut. Okay, so we're going to look at keeping your pieces organized using the lettering system that Accuquilt has. Sewing the pieces together because of the way they've been cut. Because as I just mentioned today, Accuquilt does help you with that to get accurate piecing. How to convert a traditional pattern to an so you can make the most of the dies that you have as well. And patterns and projects provided by Accuquilt, which we've already kind of talked about a little bit today, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more in depth. So that's next week. And then the week after that, which will probably be the last session on Accuquilt, is going to be storage solutions. Like, as you start to amass these suckers, how do you fit them all into your sewing room? And we've alluded to one of those things today when we showed you the cube, but we're going to talk more extensively about what you can do with all of that. So that's what's coming up in the next 2 weeks. And yeah, that's it. Keep your comments coming. If you have questions about the Accuquilt, please feel free to put them in the comments or send them directly to me, and we will try to address them on future episodes. Okay, so that's it for us today. Hope you got something out of this session, and we'll see you next week for the next one. So say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye.